Good afternoon, friends. Good evening. Good night. Good morning. Gord's Poetry Show number 85. And I'm glad to be here after a number of weeks where it just seemed impossible to get to this. Too many things to do. Things, and more things. Revisiting some poets we know and some that you don't know. On this slow approach to December the 25th. That fabled day in our calendar. Josie Sciasio-Andrews. Her new book, Metastasis. I'm going to, surprise, surprise, read some poems from it. And while I was looking through, what did I find? The First Christmas Without You. There will be no turkey this year, no candied cake, no celebration now that you're gone. The feasting is outside the house. Snow falling on the familiar landscape, sparrows feeding on your lawn, berries red in the thorn hedges, squirrels thriving in the yard. As of late, so many missing cat posters on hydropoles. Coyotes and foxes killing anything smaller and weaker than they are. Killing anything smaller and weaker than they are in blind narcissistic predation. Ferocious like the invisible illnesses decimating us all on the inside. A painting of canaries on a sewing machine by a window. My mother's sewing machine rests still now, beside her bedroom window with the lace curtains. Tiny yellow birds have nested in her garden, small feathered suns camouflaging in the yellow daisies. Burnt amber petals flying off with wind into the blue. Everything is alight with colour, intense with the chatter of birdsong on another summer morning without you. Alive, alive, everything conspiring to accentuate your absence. The hollow, empty ache within me. This brick yellow house you took flight from. An empty nest teeming with you. Darkness. So dark without end. Consciousness steps tentatively forth. Moonscape arid, frozen so cold. Breathing halts a paper world. Snow gleaming and the moon a face of worried physiognomy. Physiognomy? Of this leap we take, finding ourselves in hyperboles of nothingness, the days opening up, in their infinities, their repetitions. Filibuster. When the rains came, they were filled with omens, faces of feral dogs. Like bandits well versed in the arts of privacy, thieving the echoes of our souls. Distant blue flowers. You think you can see the world in a bit of dust, and you envision paradise in a measly weed. You try to grip the infinite with your fingers, relatively. In 60 minutes you attempt to gather the eternal, but your iPhone rings and the dog needs to piddle. You log on to Facebook, scroll for a while. You're sick and late for work. Beautiful blue flowers sway in someone's post. Thank you, Josie. Metastasis. Darrell App. Mechanical Monkeys. It's a third or fourth book, I believe. And he continues describing a world that moves too fast for most of us, but not too fast for Darrell. Years ago, night flung meaning at the spaces between the stars. There was only one can of Pringles ranch chips for all of us, but somehow we never hit the bottom. No one remembered to give thanks for the miracle. We'd lost the knack years ago, and two rodents chiseling away at the mortar between my bricks, searching always for a way through, a way in. Their song, louder than the hum of the hard drive. Antibodies. Oily raven show, spirographing higher than heaven. Even the stale-dated memory of it is enough to turn my hands into deadly weapons, with adamantium claws lurking under the knuckles. Are you into home remedies? I use birdsong as a sort of inoculation against postmodern slippery slopes and unjust property tax assessments. And when that Kawasaki Ninja 300 ran the red at Maine and Gibson, I just savoured the Doppler effect of its screaming four-stroke two-cylinder engine. Smiled like the T-800 Terminator strutting out of the fire, armoured and glittering, after the humans were sure they'd finally won. Past St. Charles, past Dollarama, the urge to give that flat truck bully the finger. But he's gone. I pray instead, grateful for it all. Sparrows and finches, robins and orioles, the gift of singing, the sun, its light, baptizing the world into wakefulness. Baptizing the world into wakefulness, yes. Lemonade. Ice cracking on Burlington Bay, that'll do it. Or sometimes just current events, sometimes just lonely. It's late this year. Blame sunspots, blame gravity. Blame that angry rip current bursting from those two black holes that merged 3 billion years ago. Or the dwarf lilac, bereft of blooms and choking on the byproducts of combustion. A stick. I drove it into the ground like a conquistador, like Armstrong planting his flag, tied it to a drooping branch on my lemon tree. I wanted it to stand tall, its pregnant flowers heavy laden with fruit and straining sunward. I wanted a truce in my war against the invisible, antlers instead of earbuds, someone to vote for instead of just against, a trusty guide when tiptoeing drunk down the spiral staircase, and what Fyodor promised us, beauty enough to save the world. Infestation. The way you screamed when you saw the pill bugs eating our strawberries was enough to make me believe in ghosts, and the bridge I used to cross over Desjardins Canal, the site of the great train disaster of 1857. That too, an axle snapped and the train jumped the tracks, flipping over down onto the ice. Mayor's son, alderman, bishop, millionaire, all lost. Stomping your feet doesn't help. On they go, chomping remorselessly. And if I had an exoskeleton like they do, maybe I'd be just like that. I don't have an exoskeleton. I have an appendix, but I don't know what to do with it. a minimum wage guardian angel and sub-zero Celsius net worth. The Iroquois trap lines are gone. So is the Studebaker factory. And all I know is that's a lot of ghosts. Life jacket. All I ever wanted was everything. So Dutch tulips went under the microscope. I wanted to decipher their bulbs, pistils and stamens, moth wings and sick babies' hearts, their lion-hearted flutterings. My dime store candle's just a puddle of wax now. Still the light sings, pressing out against the night. We sprayed the trees and poisoned the bees. Now my science fiction honey tastes funny. It's a weird disease when bloodletting's the cure. Tried everything else, Epsom salts and opium tea, talk therapy and D3, late night scams. Now I'm filling up blank pages until the fever crashes. So we went down to Pier 23, where they sling chains around steel coils, and you blowing out that dandelion was like saving someone from drowning. That's how impressed I was. Thank you, Darrell App. Mechanical monkeys. Crack, crack, crack. Last time on number 84, I charmed myself, and I hope I did you too, with Ray Armantrout's Conjure. So, let the hits keep on coming. It's not quite heavy rotation, but I do like these poems. Oh, nice cover too. That's published by Wesleyan University Press, by the way. Just in case you were thinking it was some smart aleck startup, it's Wesleyan College Press. Messaging. Entanglement means two who have made contact stay linked over any distance, so that, like a couple in a bad marriage, if one says up, the other will say down. The city of conifers, branches stacked like discs, top-notch cocked this way and that, millions of wry asides. But who is there to count? In the battered post office, a clerk with a purple turban, mustache curled in two perfect circles, asks if he can help. Turn. Even when not searching for help, the eye turns from yellow tree to tree in November. The long, naked gaze between old woman and infant is whole, real as anything will be now, she thinks, though she knows the child won't remember this, will barely remember her. A locked gaze is immersion. She feels herself floating, but now the baby squirms. Screen memory. A branching pattern is a tracery. My screen claims I have new memories. A trained vine splitting, spitting out white flowers. A nation of costumed reenactors with axes to grind. The Tower. I don't know if that's a sly reference to the Yeats poem, but it might be. You never know. In what they let us see as a role, the superhero says bitterly, "My whole life is a lie." And it's moving because it's true. He's sickened by the weight of all he's been asked to defend. We know how that is, but now a woman or a child is dangled from an office tower and we're pulled in. The villain is a symbolist. He dangles someone to demonstrate how precarious our lives are here. No one wants to see this, least of all the superhero, now fully back in character. A child is being beaten. Sign in a car window. It's not about us, it's about him. Hot potato. Of course, it's terrible when civilians burn, when they strangle. Everyone will say the same thing. Sever. The peculiar pallor of the sky at dusk. The ghost of meaning in a phrase often repeated. Critics rave. Annihilation is a haunting achievement. When severed, do pieces search each other out? Worms busy as fingers, and they say we can't tickle ourselves. I like that. We can't really. It's just too challenging. Structures. These outsized windows on either side of a door, probably new in plexiglass overlooking a freeway. Their wide-eyed expression, sad in the way it suggests optimism, but is really the product of an architectural fad already hardening into habit. For a moment, each poem is a new door opening in a wall. But then the hallway it leads to seems familiar, as does the eeriness of recognition. I look up to see leaves thronged at the window, lambent, and think, maybe there. Frame. Why are the bare twigs in the window, clouds inching between their knuckles, worth watching? Wanting more from the day is a form of greed, you said, or maybe grief. Two clouds separate so slowly that at first it could be an illusion. Yet within minutes, the smaller disappears beyond the frame's horizon, leaving no room for doubt. Thank you, Ray. Now, you probably won't remember this, it's too long ago, but my last poetry show, number 84, I was between proper spectacles and was using, the substitute ones. And I had trouble reading the small print on Canisia Lubrin's book. And I said I would get back to it with deep apologies, and I do. Sorry about that, Canisia. Just the glasses weren't working. But I've got good ones now. Dream number 31. Some years are newly sisting. Some means to see far long, where I bring the merciless, the mercied, the ones the poet says are certain, not the enemy. I bring a small mud, the empty champagne glass. I bring the unannounced, the aircraft and target. What news I bring brings the knowing, the really happened, the not yet known, the new again, the version in the version that was lost, the version with some years of growth, the non-pill, the no-no, and though all of this is uncertain, the mo beta, the lost, sugar, the lost. Return number 32. The brutal cool of hours south of the border. Here go my failing nondescript pronouncements. The eye and ear and mouth here. With the art that lost life. Here a muscle, here a way to lean gently. Movable sense. What this is, I have barely been. Abridged. I have merely paused on a return. Away or what? Listen, you call me an ambulance, or leave me nondescript. Leave a sidewalk, or like I said before, just a voice making music again. Brutal. Cool. Dream number 33. I'll go back again. Is that a return? And when they ask where I've been, I'll have gathered enough miles in the muscle of my tongue to give no answer quite so satisfying as life. You know? But to say I've come back from knotting myself permissive, from leaking enough around my hard edges, from the give this back, I do now wish to strike at it again. This life, you know all of its lamped days. To have it come back sweetly, have it all come back sweetly, as thankless time in mileage, making every revolution a raise of Dennery heights. What could you call that? Return number 34. Back to where? Perhaps I've strayed too far from the epicenter. Back to where? Perhaps I've overlooked the constant trough. I don't think you've overlooked anything. It's a scrupulous examination of life and language, Canisia. And this is a deep and wide book of poetry, let me tell you. Once again. Thank you, Canisia. Just recently, I have come into contact with Jaclyn Desforges' Danger Flower. Got a charming cover again. Published by Palimpsest Press. Nice paper on this one too. Very nice. Episodic Depression. There is a cul-de-sac. There is a tangle of fishing line and an oak tree. The cicadas leave their skins behind. They won't stop crying. The room inside of me is empty. I'm not here anymore. There's been a murder. Nature is as unknowable as that cumulus cloud. That ice cream truck's been circling the block for days. When I get back, I'll give myself a scolding and a rat to care for with a long, soft tail. Their father is here, but this isn't his house. Everything's grid-like. He can't move diagonally. My daughter's apron is covered in flour. All she does is cry and knead. I'm taking these at random. Yeah, it's just opening pages here and there. It's a nice, it's a fun adventure. It's not a nice adventure, it's a fun adventure. Secret doorway. Surprise! I'm here to tell you I escaped through a sewer line in a blue prairie frock on dish-washed hands and knobbly knees. I travelled north and north and north through that subterranean tube, all the while forgetting what they taught me about dinosaur riding, about tater tots, about front hugs, about God. All the while collecting opinions like dollar store gemstones, new and sparkly, but hard to brag about. My perm unfurled 4 miles in, and I ripped off my shit-soaked dress after 5. When I emerged from that manhole, I pulled my hair in a slapdash bun and wandered the wheat fields of Saskatchewan. I found myself at Tim Hortons, a cup of Devil's Brew double-double, which I sipped buck-naked as the Canadians politely looked elsewhere. Drinking coffee in public with no clothes on. Dear, dear. Survival strategies. Before we knew what extinction meant, we put on a one-woman show. Guinevere was the mouth. Moody Judy kept blushing. She played the dimpled thigh. 40 women propped us upright, though we never learned their names. At intermission we mingled, mocked man-spreaders, drank white, and weren't beauty standards unacceptable? Weren't mirrors something to break? In the end we fled to the woods. In the end Susan stopped epilating her lip, though Paul, with the pretty okay sales job, declared her a goddess anyway. We high-fived over how little this mattered to our glittering tiger-shaped selves. Drank kombucha we totally wanted. Though some of us fucked Paul anyway, behind that last redwood tree, soft-faced against the bark, as he moaned, "Baby, you feel perfect." Pillow talk. A certain irony in the choice of titles in this book, I suspect. Still, irony is allowed. Irony is okay. It was good enough for Jane Austen. It's good enough for me and Jaclyn Desforges. And I imagine Cicero was pretty good at irony too. But that's going back kind of far. Pillow talk. A cold, dry rock in space is dead until we terraform it. It's like the justice system, but backwards, the object consecrated in the act of enveloping. It's a welcoming, a rumination similar to, but different from, an altar. Take note of mammals with their mouths full of grass, of our bodies' ineffectual edges. When you're inside me, you are me. Are you alarmed by spray? Sex is water, the molecular suture of life, the only flowable gift in space. We act like it's some kind of power. It's no more a power than the power to swallow, a biological act of selective absorption, the nighttime pursuit of nutrients. Sin is cold death, and we wash it away. Then, in the fields, the lambs come. Yes. Let's see, is that... I don't know here. Jaclyn lives in Hamilton, Ontario, as does Darrell. I wonder if they know each other. And she's published Here, There, and Everywhere, won awards. Editorial board of the Hamilton Review of Books. That's something I should read, the Hamilton Review of Books. I like book reviews. And, she's doing well. Congratulations, and keep up the good work. So, what is this again? This is Gorge Poetry Show. That's what it is. So don't forget that, and don't forget anything, or no, forget everything, and then you can live in the moment without thinking about stuff. Just be here now. As I think we used to say that in the 70s, didn't we? Be here now. Yeah. So I'm being here now, and I'm endlessly open to poetry, let me tell you. It's the universal language of, well, poets, of course, but it's a universal language, and we talk to each other through time and space. And it's about time I read some poetry from the canon just to back that wild claim up, isn't it? And maybe I'll get to that next time. Until then, do your December thing according to your, how shall I say, cultural habits, and enjoy it all. And for God's sake, love one another, you know. I mean, it's what makes the world go around. And so long from Gord's Poetry Show. Until next time. And do you like my new glasses? Oh, they cost a pretty penny, let me tell you.